If you're watching this right now, it's not an accident. God led you here with the same care he uses to guide rivers back to the sea. He has seen the tears you tried to hide. He collected them in his bottles, the nights you fought battles no one else knew about. Each tear he gathered, each silence he understood. The same God who walked beside you through loss is now turning toward you with restoration. This prayer from Psalm 126 is the moment where your story begins to breathe again. The God who watched you weep is ready to turn your mourning into dancing, your sorrow into laughter, your emptiness into overflow. This is your moment of divine restoration, where everything you lost begins to live again. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, they were like those who dream. This line carries the breath of miracles, the still sound of something only God can do. There are moments in life when your heart has become accustomed to pain, when you no longer expect joy to return. Then suddenly, without warning, God moves, and the burden that once defined you begins to dissolve. Psalm 126 reminds us that restoration is not just an event. It is a divine awakening. It is when your reality shifts and you find yourself living in a joy you once thought was gone forever. Sometimes captivity is not physical. It is emotional, spiritual, or mental. You can be free on the outside and yet bound inside by memories, regrets, or deep disappointments. But when the Lord steps in, he doesn't negotiate with your pain. He rewrites it. The same tears that fell in silence become the rain that waters your new beginning. Restoration is not a replay of the past. It is God giving you back what you lost, but in a higher form, purer, wiser, stronger. That's what makes joy after captivity so holy. It carries the fragrance of every prayer you whispered while waiting. Many times we imagine that restoration must come through human help, through visible breakthroughs, through some big announcement. But the God of Psalm 126 moves quietly. He rebuilds the inner walls first before he changes what's visible. He strengthens faith before he restores fortune. He makes you whole before he makes you happy. And when his work is done, the laughter that follows is not shallow. It's sacred. It is the laughter of one who has seen God's hand undo years of pain in a moment of mercy. Think about the Israelites in captivity. For years they wondered if God had forgotten them. They prayed, they fasted, they waited. Nothing seemed to move. Yet at the appointed time, the same God who watched their tears also measured their harvest. He knew when their night was long enough. He knew when to say, now. And when that now came, joy did not knock. It flooded in. Restoration always arrives at the perfect time, not a moment earlier or later. Maybe you've been in a place where you've stopped expecting joy. You've prayed until words felt empty. You've smiled for others while breaking in silence. But today, Psalm 126 whispers hope again. God can still turn your captivity. He can restore what was lost, not in fragments, but in fullness. It may not happen how you imagined, but it will happen exactly how he planned. The laughter that once felt impossible is waiting at the other side of your obedience. Restoration is not rushed. It unfolds like dawn, softly, faithfully, inevitably. You may not notice it at first, but little by little the heaviness begins to lift. Peace begins to visit again. The same heart that was weary starts to breathe differently. That's how God works. He heals beneath the surface before the world can see the change. And when the moment comes, everything aligns. The timing, the peace, the strength, the joy. Captivity gives way to freedom and sorrow bows to joy. Sometimes, before God restores, he allows the shaking. He allows everything familiar to fall apart. so that what he rebuilds will never crumble again. In those moments, trust becomes the only bridge between the loss and laughter. Faith becomes your anchor. You don't have to understand how restoration will come. You just have to believe that it will. Every tear shed in faith becomes a deposit towards your joy. Every silent prayer becomes a foundation for your testimony. Let this first prayer rise quietly in your heart. Lord, I have seen pain, and I have waited long. But you are the same God who turned Zion's captivity. Turn mine too. Restore my peace, my joy, my faith, and my laughter. Make me like one who dreams again. I do not ask for the past, Lord. I ask for what you have promised, for the kind of joy that only you can give. As you pray these words, feel them touch the places that have gone numb, because restoration begins the moment you stop pretending you're fine and start letting God in. He meets you where you are, not where you wish you were. And in his presence, even the memory of captivity begins to fade, replaced by a peace that doesn't make sense, but feels like home. There are moments when life feels like dry ground, when everything once fruitful turns barren, and you begin to wonder if joy will ever return. Psalm 126 carries a gentle assurance, they that sow in tears shall reap in joy. This is not poetic comfort. It is a spiritual law. The tears of faith are never wasted. Every night you prayed, every moment you held on when your strength was gone, every time you forgave. Instead of retaliating, all of it was a seed. Restoration begins in that hidden soil, watered by faith, guarded by patience, and watched by God. It will not break the surface overnight, but when it does, the harvest will silence every doubt. To sow in tears means to keep believing even when nothing seems to change. It means trusting that God's memory does not fade, that he still records the quiet cries no one else hears. The captivity may have stolen your laughter, but it could not steal your faith. Faith is the one thing the enemy cannot imprison. It waits quietly like a buried seed that refuses to die. When God breathes on that faith, it becomes life again, stronger, deeper, unstoppable. That is the beginning of restoration. Not when circumstances shift, but when your heart begins to hope again. There is something sacred about tears. The world sees them as weakness, but heaven reads them as prayer. Tears speak what words cannot. They are the language of the soul when the voice breaks. Psalm 126 tells us that God turns those tears into joy, not by erasing the memory of pain, but by transforming its meaning. You begin to see that even the valley had purpose. It taught you to depend, to wait, to trust the unseen hand of God. Without those tears, the joy to come would not have roots. Without the breaking, there would be no birthing. Sometimes restoration begins with loss that feels unbearable. God allows certain things to be removed, not to punish you, but to clear space for the harvest he planned. It is painful, yes, but holy pain often precedes holy laughter. Like the farmer who weeps as he plants in difficult soil, you may be crying while releasing things you never wanted to lose. People, dreams, seasons. But what you let go in faith will return multiplied. It is not over. It is being rewritten. The God of restoration does not end stories in sorrow. When the psalm says, "They shall doubtless come again rejoicing," it means restoration is certain, not probable, not occasional, but guaranteed for those who trust him through the drought. The same hands that scattered seeds in tears will one day carry sheaves with joy. That means your current pain is not final. It's transitional. God is already arranging the turnaround. The laughter that seems far is already written into your future. You may not see it, but heaven is rehearsing your restoration. In the quiet of waiting, something happens within. Your prayer life deepens, your discernment sharpens, your view of God changes from distant to intimate. Captivity teaches you that you are never alone. It strips away noise until only His presence remains. It is in that stillness that faith matures. And when restoration finally comes, it won't just be about what you receive. It will be about who you've become. You'll find yourself stronger, wiser, and anchored in peace that cannot be shaken again. Restoration is not only about getting back what was lost. It is about recovering your voice. Captivity silences the soul, but God restores the song. There comes a day when laughter returns, not the shallow laughter that masks pain, but the deep kind that rises from gratitude. You will find yourself smiling through tears, not because everything is perfect, but because you finally see purpose in your journey. Every disappointment was a seed. Every silence was a lesson. Every prayer was a step closer to this moment. Let this prayer rise quietly from your heart. Father, I have sown in tears. You have seen the nights I could not speak, the pain I could not name. But today, I believe in your promise that I shall reap in joy. Let my tears become testimony. Let every sorrow produce beauty. Restore laughter where there was heaviness, hope where there was despair, and faith where there was fear. I trust you to turn my captivity into joy. As you pray, remember, God restores in seasons, not seconds. His timing is not delay, it is design. He restores not just situations, but identities. He is not only giving you back what was lost, He is giving you back you. The real you, free from fear, healed from disappointment, and ready to dream again. That is the promise of Psalm 126, that one day your story will make others say, "The Lord has done great things for them." Restoration rarely begins with noise. It begins in silence, in the hidden places where no one sees what God is preparing. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, there was no announcement, no warning, no public sign. One moment they were captives, the next they were free. That is how the silent hand of God works quietly, powerfully, without explanation. You may not feel Him moving, yet He is arranging every detail behind the scenes. The delay you fear is often His divine preparation. What seems like stillness is not absence. It is construction. Every waiting season has a purpose hidden within it. And when His time comes, change happens faster than you can understand. The captivity of Zion had lasted generations. The people had wept, fasted, repented, and longed for deliverance. Then suddenly the hand of the Lord moved, and their sorrow turned to laughter. It is this suddenness that defines divine restoration. It comes after long silence, yet it feels like it happened overnight. You cannot explain it, but you know it was God. You know it wasn't luck or timing or help from men. It was grace. When the Lord turns captivity, He does it in a way that reminds you that He alone holds the key. Many times restoration starts quietly in your spirit before it ever reaches your circumstances. A small shift in your peace, a faint whisper of hope returning. These are the first signs that God is moving. It may not look like freedom yet, but inside, the chains begin to loosen. You find yourself able to breathe again, to believe again. That's where true deliverance starts in the heart. Because God's restoration is not just about giving you back what was taken. It's about freeing you from what you became during the captivity. He restores the broken trust, the bruised confidence, the silenced faith. He restores the parts of you that stopped dreaming. Sometimes we expect restoration to look dramatic lightning from heaven, a sudden wind, an obvious breakthrough. But Psalm 126 shows us that the most powerful works of God are often quiet. Joy does not always shout. Sometimes it sighs. Healing does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers. The silence of restoration is not emptiness. It is peace returning. The noise of battle fades, and a soft stillness fills the heart. You begin to sense God's presence in ways you couldn't when you were busy fighting to survive. In that quiet, He rebuilds what was broken. There is beauty in the fact that God restores personally. He does not restore nations in general terms. He restores you. He knows the shape of your loss, the weight of your sorrow, the sound of your cry. His restoration is tailor-made. What He gives back will fit your life like it was never missing. And when joy comes, it will not feel like borrowed happiness. It will feel like something that was always meant to be yours. You'll realize that the years of waiting were not wasted. They prepared you to value what is now returning. When God turns captivity, the evidence is undeniable. Even those who once doubted you begin to say, "The Lord has done great things for them." Your restoration becomes testimony that speaks without words. You won't need to defend yourself or prove your transformation. The peace around you will speak. The favor that follows you will testify. What once looked like the end will become the very story that glorifies God the most. That's the power of His silent hand. It turns defeat into demonstration. Restoration also teaches humility. When you've walked through loss, you stop boasting in yourself. You understand grace differently. You love deeper, forgive faster, and trust slower but stronger. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Thank you, Lord." Because now you know that everything that broke you was allowed to rebuild you. You see that God was not punishing you. He was preparing you for the weight of joy you now carry. You realize that joy without depth fades quickly, but joy built through pain lasts forever. Let this prayer rise gently. Father, thank you for the silent ways you work. When I cannot see your hand, help me to trust your heart. Restore not only what I lost, but who I was before the pain. Let peace return to my mind and laughter return to my lips. Teach me to wait without fear and to believe without proof. Turn my captivity quietly, Lord, until my life becomes a song of your mercy. As you rest in that prayer, do not search for signs. Just breathe. God is nearer than you think. The silence you feel is not emptiness. It is His presence hovering over your next miracle. When He moves, it will be sudden but sure. The night will end, the chains will break, and you will look around in quiet awe, saying, "I am like one who dreams." That is the sound of restoration, not noise, but peace after the storm. Restoration begins not because we remind God, but because He remembers. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, it was not an act of surprise or persuasion. It was fulfillment. His people had waited, prayed, and endured generations of silence, but God had never forgotten them. His memory is holy. His promises never expire. There is no expiration date on divine mercy. What He spoke over your life years ago still stands untouched by time. You may have forgotten. Others may have dismissed it. But God never misplaces what He intends to restore. Every prayer, every act of faith, every tear has been kept in His remembrance. In due time, remembrance becomes restoration. It is a comforting truth that God's memory works differently from ours. We remember pain, rejection, and loss. But God remembers purpose, covenant, and destiny. Where we see broken years, he sees unfinished design. When the people of Zion thought he was silent, he was simply waiting for the right time to make the turnaround complete. His delay was not denial, it was protection. He was ensuring that what he restored could not be stolen again. That is how divine remembrance works. It does not rush to comfort, it waits to perfect. There are seasons when you think heaven has gone quiet. Your prayers seem unanswered, your faith feels thin, and your hope begins to fade. Yet even then, God remembers. His silence is never forgetfulness. It is focus. He is aligning situations, softening hearts, preparing opportunities, and guarding your next chapter. You may not see his movement, but he is not still. He never sleeps nor slumbers. Every sigh, every whisper, every sleepless night has been recorded in his book. And when the time comes, his remembrance breaks through time like morning light after a long night of rain. When God remembers, everything changes. Hannah's barrenness ended when the Lord remembered her. Joseph's imprisonment turned to promotion when God remembered his promise. The Israelites walked out of captivity when God remembered his covenant. And so it is with you. Your story has a moment written in heaven where God's remembrance will meet your reality. When that happens, what was once impossible becomes effortless. What you struggled to achieve begins to flow. What felt heavy becomes light. That is the signature of divine remembrance. It carries ease after exhaustion. Sometimes God waits until everyone else has given up so that his glory can stand alone. If help had come earlier, you might have thanked people. But now, only God can take the credit. When restoration finally arrives, you will see that his timing was not cruel, it was precise. The waiting humbled you, shaped you, and positioned you for the magnitude of what was coming. He was not ignoring you. He was protecting the testimony. The laughter that comes after such waiting is deep, healing, and full of gratitude. There is a quiet holiness in knowing that God remembers you by name. Not just as part of a crowd, not just as one among millions, but personally, intimately, intentionally. When he turns your captivity, it will not be random. It will be crafted to fit the very shape of your prayer. He restores specifically, not generally. What you lost in secret, he returns in public. What you thought had ended, he renews with beauty. And everyone who once pitied you will see the hand of God lift you into joy. When you feel forgotten, remind yourself that God has not lost your file. Heaven has no backlog. Your life is not on hold. It is on schedule. Restoration has an appointed time, and nothing can cancel it. Not failure, not delay, not the opinions of others. The Lord who turned Zion's captivity will turn yours too. You will laugh again, not out of surprise, but out of recognition, because deep down, you always knew he would come through. Whisper this prayer quietly. Lord, I thank you because you never forget. Even when I feel overlooked, you are working. Remember me, O Lord, according to your mercy. Turn my captivity and restore what I cannot restore on my own. Remember the prayers I have prayed, the tears I have sown, the promises you have spoken. Let this be my season of remembrance, and let my laughter be proof that you are faithful. Rest now in that truth. The God who remembered Zion has not forgotten you. The same power that restored them is still alive and present in your story. You may not see the full picture, but he is painting it in shades of grace and timing. One day you will look back and understand why it had to take this long. You will see that his memory was never late. It was perfect. And when the Lord turns your captivity, your joy will be the loudest testimony of his remembrance. When God restores, he does not sprinkle, he pours. His restoration flows like a river, steady, calm, and sure. Psalm 126 says, "Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south." The dry streams of the south waited silently through long seasons of emptiness. Yet when the rains came, they became rivers of life. That is how divine restoration works. One day everything feels barren. The next, grace overflows. The river doesn't ask permission to flow. It simply moves. When God decides your time has come, he doesn't check your past or your mistakes. He releases what he has been preparing. Restoration is not earned. It is mercy remembered. The seasons of waiting were not punishment, but preparation. The soil of your faith learning how to hold rain again. When restoration begins, it cleanses as it fills. It washes away the dust of sorrow and softens the ground of your heart. You will remember the past, but differently, without pain, without bitterness. The same places that once hurt will bloom again. God's restoration never comes halfway. It touches what you lost, and it revives what was sleeping. Peace returns quietly. Joy becomes gentle but lasting. You stop chasing what left because you understand. What is truly yours was never gone, only waiting for the right season to return. When the Lord restores, he doesn't give you back what was lost. He makes it new. The laughter that returns is softer but deeper. The peace quieter but stronger. You will stand between memory and miracle and whisper, "The Lord has done great things for me. Lord, thank you for remembering me. Thank you for turning my captivity and restoring my joy. Teach me to live with a thankful heart, not just when blessings overflow, but in every breath. Let gratitude be my song, my prayer, my daily rhythm. May I never forget the nights you carried me, the prayers you answered, the peace you gave. Let my thankfulness draw others to your light. As you rest in that prayer, feel the weight of peace settling. Gratitude is not emotion, it is recognition. It is the moment you realize that everything you thought was lost, it has led you here, into stillness, into laughter, into light. You no longer have to look backward with regret or forward with fear. Gratitude keeps you grounded in the present, in the grace that lives right here. When God restores, he does not sprinkle, he pours. His restoration flows like a river, calm, steady, and full. Psalm 126 captures this truth. Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. The southern streams lie silent for long seasons, their beds dry and forgotten, until the rains return. Then, without effort, they overflow with life again. That is what restoration feels like. One day everything seems barren. The next you find peace where there was once only waiting. Restoration does not reward perfection. It reflects mercy. God does not consult your past before releasing grace. He restores not because you earned it, but because he loves you. The waiting was not wasted. It was preparation. The soil of your faith was learning to hold water again. When the Lord turns captivity, the first thing that returns is not wealth or position. It is joy. Not loud joy, but quiet joy that rises from healing. It does not erase pain. It redeems it. You begin to smile without trying. You breathe without fear. You live without walls. That joy becomes your new language, born not of ease, but of peace. The laughter that follows restoration carries no noise, no pride. It is gentle and full of gratitude. It remembers the silence, honors it, and whispers, God was faithful. You will revisit old memories and feel no pain. The wounds that once silenced you become testimonies that strengthen others. God does not remove your story. He rewrites it with grace. Peace follows, quiet and steady. It does not rush in. It settles. It does not demand attention. It stays. You find yourself trusting again, without fear, without explanation. The same voice that once trembled in prayer now speaks calmly in gratitude. You no longer chase answers because you understand that God's timing is perfect. Then comes gratitude, the heartbeat of restoration. You start to thank God for simple things. Mornings filled with calm, nights that end in peace, laughter that no longer hides pain. Every breath becomes worship. Every sigh says thank you. Gratitude does not wait for grand miracles. It sees the holy in the ordinary. Gratitude changes how you see others. You stop comparing stories and start encouraging. You no longer envy anyone's joy because you know how long it takes to reach peace. Your gratitude becomes light for those still walking through night. Faith deepens too. It becomes quieter but stronger. It does not need to shout. It stands firm. You no longer ask for proof. You live as proof. You understand that if God could restore once, He can do it again. The same faith that carried you through the valley now carries you through peace. Finally, there is stillness. Not the silence of emptiness, but the calm of completion. The storms have passed. The heart no longer struggles to explain or prove anything. It simply rests. Stillness is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of peace. It is the soul understanding that everything it prayed for has arrived. Not all at once, but exactly when it should. This is the full circle of restoration. It begins with tears and ends with quiet gratitude. The laughter remains. The faith stays. The peace endures. You wake up calm, not because everything is easy, but because you trust the one who holds your life. Let this final prayer rise softly. Lord, thank you for turning my captivity into peace. Thank you for the laughter that rises after pain and the strength that grows in stillness. Restore every weary heart that listens now. Let your rivers flow through every dry place. Wash away fear, fill us with calm, and teach us to rest in your timing. May our hearts stay grateful, our faith remain steady, and our joy unbroken. Let our lives quietly testify that you still restore, still heal, and still make all things new. Amen. If this message touched your heart, take a moment and write in the comments, Lord, thank you for turning my captivity into joy. Your words could remind someone else that God still restores. Until next time, may the Lord bless you, keep you, and surround you with unshakable peace. Go in strength, go in confidence, and go knowing your story has already turned in your favor. Amen.